And it's that true grit and your leadership and who you surround yourself with. And for me today, God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit, there's no better leader out there under the sun, literally.
When people, there's a cliche everyone says, when I climb a mountain, it turned my life around, but it really did. Life isn't all about just working, making supper, and going to bed, watch TV for 3 hours, go to bed, and then start all over again.
Yeah.
There's more to life than that. People that love you the most will question you through divorce, through you changing your life, and that is okay because you have your own path. Everyone deserves to be loved, everyone deserves to be forgiven, and not keep going backwards.
I do believe it's never too late to start living and creating the life that you were meant to live, by the way. All right, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. And I am super excited today because we got a group podcast. This is going to be super great. We've got Ryan Reichert and Lisa Sanders on with us. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. Good morning, George. Thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, I'm excited about the topic because, first of all, you guys are a great team. You got a lot of things going on, more than even, and I say this about myself all the time, but more than we can even handle. So let me give everybody a little bit of a framework and a background for who you are, and so that everybody gets to know what you're doing here, because we're going to talk about some really good transformational things today. You guys got some great stuff. So for those of you that are just listening, we always want you to subscribe to the podcast, make sure you don't miss any episodes, and that's why I do the podcast, right? It's a daily mastermind. Our idea here is how can we help you create your best life? And so we're bringing you all kinds of different topics. And the one today is going to be very transformational based. You'll have a lot of perspectives. But Ryan is a 23-year U.S. Army veteran, retired colonel, former Fortune 500 advisor, author of God Only Knows When the Devil Comes for You, and founder of Our Protector. And he's got a great background from one side of the sphere, and I think Lisa Sanders is a 24-year registered nurse. Leadership role, basically in charge of facilities, but a life coach, co-host of the Our Healer, Our Protector podcast. And she's a pretty faith-driven person, and she's someone that's really got a great story that she's had during COVID, and both of them divorce survivors going through their personal journey, but have now gone on the scene to really create some amazing stuff for people that are going through personal transformation. So that's a little bit about you guys, but what I'd like to do real quick is just take a minute for you to lay the backdrop of who you really are. I think it's important for people to understand who you are, because your mission of your podcast and what you're doing and transformation is so important. Ryan, if you don't mind, let's start with you. Tell me a little bit about your military background and what led you into leadership, training, coaching, things like that. Give us your backstory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have to go back even further, George. So Ryan T. Reichert and I always started it this way because it was a chip on my shoulder I had for 45 years. But I'm from Hoople, North Dakota, Tatertown, USA. It's like 350, 400 people, graduated with 11 kids. So when people say I'm from a small town, like 3,000, 4,000, it would have taken, do the math. I'm not real great at math, but it's one where it would take a lot of towns in our area to get to what most people would say I came from a small town. So and I was raised Catholic, so I struggled with all the rules. And so later in life, I did join the Army through the University of North Dakota. And I think some people are like, are leaders made? Are they born? I think it's a little bit of both. And so I was in the infantry. I did airborne ranger and served in Afghanistan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, spent about 4 years deployed in combat. And I learned if you don't put yourself with the right folks, the right leadership, the right tip of the spear, you'll end up finding yourself, I call it, in the ditch or in a valley. And with that, it was the same. And when I was about 12 years in and I was going to the Command and General Staff College, I wrote a thesis on leader development, and it's communication, trust, and legacy. And it's literally those three things can create any leader. So hopefully you have someone who's taught you how to communicate, which builds trust. And if you're in the right circles, like their legacy creates your legacy. And today I utilize that framework in my faith and my spirituality as a recovering addict and alcoholic post divorce. And then trying to show my children that even though I've failed and I've made mistakes, you can come back from anything. And it's that true grit and your leadership and who you surround yourself with. And for me today, God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit, there's no better leader out there under the sun, literally. And yeah, it was a great career, 23 years, retired, lieutenant colonel. And it's one where Fortune 500 America gave me what I needed. I learned the ropes of what C-suites look like, what they need to be successful. And then last year, I started Our Protector LLC, and the LLC stands for Legendary Leadership Companies. And we've got a bunch of different avenues to go down in that spectrum. So I really appreciate the introduction.
Yeah, that's great. I've never heard that before. I love that LLC because I have a lot of LLCs, but I like that acronym way better. Ryan, I want to follow up
Mhm.
some on that and then get some of Lisa's backstory. But the reason listen, I want the listeners to hear me here when I say the reason I had you guys on is not just there's a lot of thought leaders, a lot of coaches and transformation experts, but very few come from a very solid background of leadership, but also been through all the transformation. Ryan's not just an accomplished individual and leader. He's got a post PTSD, post addiction recovery, divorce, like you name it. But I love how you've applied it to this concept of leadership and having to go through the trenches. And so that's a really great story. And it's definitely one that I know for our audiences asking this question right now, we will get into a little bit later. We'll do in some follow ups as well. But Lisa, you bring a huge, when you guys met, you bring a huge other side of the spectrum, but very similar background. And your background as a nurse during COVID is pretty powerful. You've had some emotional turning points that took you from divorce and nursing into this world of coaching as well. So, can you give us a little bit of your background and what kind of turning point happened for you to transition from your career into this and the partnership with Ryan?
Yes. Since I've been a little girl, I've always had an imagination and a dreamer. And I felt like I was always meant to do something big. So I did what we all do. We go to college. But in that, when you talk about being born a leader, I always believed in God since I was a little girl. I was the president of my youth group. I started Thursdays with some girls at our big high school, and we had worship on Thursdays before school started for an hour every Thursday. And we even had guest speakers back then. And that was in 1990, 91, and 92. And then I became a nurse and went to church all through college. I went to church by myself. I would get some roommates to go every once in a while. And then I became a nurse. I got married. A lot of stuff happened to relate with people. I've been on the side where you've been cheated on, and I stayed with him. And because that's what you do when you're married, you take the good with the bad. And I just kept pushing through. I provided for my family. And then COVID hit. And through my nursing process, I loved being with dying people. I loved being with them through the spiritual aspect. And when COVID hit, did CPR every day, watched people die. I had to be with patients that their family members couldn't be in the room. My grandma, I had 7 people die throughout COVID, not all from COVID. My grandma died of COVID, and we couldn't be at her bedside. So what I brought to the hospital was I got to be there for family members that couldn't be at their bedside that someone had to do for my grandma. And we're talking ages, early 20s to 80s, all different ages. And I started, when you ask anybody before they die, what, if you could have done anything, or even when they're living, when they're older, if you could have done anything in life, what would you do? And they're like, do stuff when you're young so you can do it older. Start traveling when you can move and climb mountains. And that stuck with me. And then what hit me during COVID was so emotional that I'm like, what am I doing? What is my purpose in life? Yes, it's to heal people at the bedside, but what am I doing with myself? Is this what we just go to work every single day? We work hard, we go home, we get dinner, bring our kids to sports, and then we just live it all over again. And I'm like, I got to start seeing the world. So I did. I started going with my girlfriends because we couldn't afford both my husband at the time and me for to go. And I'm like, I'm going. Like, I got to do this. And that's the first time I ever climbed a mountain, Flatiron in Arizona. And when people, there's a cliche everyone says, when I climb a mountain, it turned my life around, but it really did. On the way up to that mountain, I cried, I laughed. It was the most mental and physical thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. And as I was going up, my girlfriends were up ahead of me, and I didn't think I was going to get through this pass. And I literally prayed to God. I'm like, oh my gosh, God, I don't know where to place my feet. I don't know how to get up any higher. And this guy came out of nowhere. This is a mountain that you might see people, or you might not see someone for a couple hours or 3 hours. And he laid his hand out and he said, do you need help? And I said, yes. And he helped me place. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. He helped me place my feet, and I was able to get up to my girlfriend's. And then he was gone, and I made it to the top. And I'm like, I did it. And when I made it down, I'm like, my life changed after that. I believe in marriage. I believe trying everything that you can, go through therapy and do all that. And I love my children, and they're always at our base, like of all of our decisions. And I would never want to disappoint anybody. And I'm like, no, I'm meant to do more. Gone through everything I did. I post divorce. One day I'm like, you know what? I'm meant to have more. I'm meant to do more. I started practicing doing podcasts with my nurse friends, and we'd joke and we'd set up on the porch. And when I was little, I used to do Oprah, pretend I was Oprah. I have a video from sixth grade. I pretended I was a teen pregnancy in sixth grade, and my girlfriend April was Oprah. And we did the whole thing out. I have a couple of those like that. And we had audience. And so I've always meant to do more. And I have this thing, I know I can inspire people and get people to the next level. I've always been someone that people can come to get advice. And I'm excited about life. Even through all the hard stuff, I know God's got me. And my magic number is 3. It took me 3 times to pass my nursing board. It took me 3 times to pass driving, which people probably still say I shouldn't have passed, but I think I did pretty good. And then throughout life, I knew I think you call it old soul, but I'm like, God, it takes me 3 times, but I know I'm going to be okay. And I went to Match.com and I met Ryan, and we talked about God and our Christian faith because that was the most important thing to me. And then we've been with each other for a while, but I'm like, how about, would you ever think about doing a podcast with me to make a difference in people's lives? And he's, yeah. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Okay. And from then on, we want to do post-divorce, how to inspire other people and help them in a Christian faith. And we're not people that are like overly, I don't know how you can be overly godly, but we don't push it on people, just whatever you believe in to
Yeah.
make you a better
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have a powerful story. And like I said before, both you and Ryan both have powerful stories in different areas. I'm curious because I want to get into the podcast, but I want to back up just a second. I've found, and what's one of the reasons why the core message I have is evolution as far as evolving your life, transformation, basically, because people a lot of times transform to their best versions of themselves or the best or the better versions of themselves through hard experiences, through trauma, through things like that. And so I'm curious, usually when that happens, people do steer towards faith and things like that because they're trying to find ways outside of themselves to help them. I'm curious, just a real quick answer from each of you. Were you always faith based, or was it your experiences that took you that direction? And the reason I ask this is as we start talking about the podcast, you're very much about practical, strategic, tactical ways to transform your life, but around faith based. So both of you and most people had a little bit of religion or spirituality growing up. But Ryan, were you a faith based person, or did it happen through your transformation, or did it just solidify through your transformation?
I would say it's solidified. So I was raised Catholic, baptized Catholic, married into Lutheranism, and then the idolatry of Mickey Mouse and the Magic Kingdom came to fruition over time and space. Like the girls were raised in a Lutheran setting where they were baptized and confirmed and so forth. But we certainly spent more time, like I said, at Disneyland or Disney World than we ever did going to church while we were raising our children together. And so when I look at it as an addict or an alcoholic, no better worshiper than someone that I would do anything for my prescription drugs or alcohol to take away the pain, to fill that God-sized hole that I couldn't fill with money or material things or adventures or whatever I thought it would be that would make me happy. It just didn't happen. Even in Fortune 500 America, I was making 3 times what I was making in the military upon retirement, didn't fill that hole. And when I finally broke and had committed the 7 deadly sins, all of them, right, over my post-military career, it only took 17 months to gain 50 pounds and drink every day and abuse the prescription drugs that I had for all my different other problems post-military with PTSD and other things. And all of a sudden, when it was like the good Lord, I think, was one where the lights that you have in your little studios, I could grab and shine it right on my face and go, "Are you done? Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired, Ryan? Because I have a way. And all you have to do is follow me for once." And it was like right there and then, my dad's a recovering alcoholic of over 40 years. And he talks about when he tells his story being struck sober. And I never believed that because I was like, what a bunch of BS. Yeah. And today I get that. God willing, in a couple of days, I'll have 19 months of sobriety now. And it literally was in that moment, the 26th of November, when I had my last drink that evening, when it was just like this, just like that. And never, there's just all I had to do is follow him. And that's what I do every single day. Yeah. I know we'll get into that more here, but yeah, so it was not for me. Lisa and I have very different stories when it comes to our faith and our spirituality. And
it's definitely when you're at your kind of weakest moments that you're the most open to transformation. And I think that's why people find that it's a combination of understanding that a lot of it is your inner game that creates your outer world, but then you have to have this understanding that there's something outside just yourself and you're not doing it alone. Lisa, because I want to have some time to get into the podcast and whatnot. Yeah. Were you always real faith-based, or as would be obvious? I was born. Go ahead.
I think I was born with Jesus in my heart. I was driven. Yeah. There's not a time in my life that I ever even questioned him. I know people like, why did God do that? I never thought that. I'm like, okay, God, what's my lesson? And I have been through stuff. I've had alcoholism in my family, divorce. I've seen a lot that I shouldn't have seen when growing up. And I surrounded myself with people that I could escape to also. But everywhere I turned in every part of my family on both sides was about God. Even through the hard times, we'd still sit down at the table and we'd pray together and we would talk about God.
I love that. And I think that you made a point earlier, and I'll just double down on it. Wayne Dyer did a good job of this. He was a very spiritual person, but his message rang true regardless of whether you were spiritual-based, religion-based, God, faith, universe, whatever it is. The point is, I think a lot of people are becoming more and more aware that there's more to this life and there's more to you than just that. And there's a power in knowing that you have greatness inside of you, and it's not just your experience and beliefs that determine that. So let's take a minute and now pivot. So people have gotten to know a little bit about who you guys are. You've created this podcast, Our Healer, Our Protector. Interesting name. Maybe, Ryan, you could speak to why you named it that, and what is that? What's your purpose of the podcast, Our Healer, Our Protector?
For those out there that like the scientific answer, I think we spelled it out with our career. Our healer, that's Lisa. Our protector is myself, nurse and soldier, and so on and so forth. Very service oriented. And we've laid our lives on the line during multiple times, especially for Lisa during COVID and any time that I was downrange. But for us, really, it's our God, and he is our healer, our protector, our redeemer, you name it. And no matter who you are, it's one of those things. You want to come and listen because you're whatever you are. The science side exists because we bring that into each episode. And then the spiritual side. And I always say religion. So when I talk about being Catholic or Lutheran, and then now I'm just a follower of Jesus Christ. But the difference between religion and spirituality is religion's for those who don't want to go to hell, and spirituality is for those of us who've already been there. And when I say that, it's our podcast is raw. It's not scripted. It's one of those things where when it's Lisa and I, we're talking about something that probably's happened in our life, and it's maybe the first time it has or has not happened as we traverse post-divorce, like just the ups and downs and ins and outs and how ugly. Yeah. You think like the Our Healer side, like healing things like through the divorce process, and you think you're doing a great job communicating, or the kids, you got it figured out with the mother of your children and so forth. And then polar, next day,
Yeah.
180 degrees in the wrong
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
And then
It's
we
funny.
also have
Go ahead.
guests that come on and we dive into their walk of wherever they've come from. Because normally, like you said earlier, success comes from maybe hitting that valley for a little while and you have to walk on out of it.
Yeah, and people know this in their heart. They know that the best way to get out of that is to be with someone who's been through it. No matter who you are, whether you're dealing with trauma, had trauma, you've had recovery, you're dealing with things that emotion in your business, stress, anxiety, whatever it is, these are emotions that you deal with all the time. That's why I think that your podcast brings a lot to the table for that. And I think sometimes people just, and especially post COVID, like people just want to be a part of. It's always amazed me how, as we've done events with Tony Robbins, he can be dealing with one person's trauma in a room full of 5,000 people that all paid $1,000 looking to get value, and everyone gets value from that one person's transformation. So there's a lot to that. And that's one of the reasons why, Lisa, I wanted to ask you, Ryan did a good job of explaining what the podcast is, what the format, like why you're doing it. Help us understand what sets it apart from just other maybe relationship or personal growth shows. What do you guys do that's a little different other than your extreme background and experience? Tell us what the format is, why you do it that way, and what separates your message, the two of you, from everyone else in the marketplace.
I think what we are going to do is people get to be with us and grow with us because
Mhm.
we're still growing and healing. So if you're a person that's just getting started, maybe start at the beginning and watch them all, and then you get to grow and heal with us. And we still want, life is so short. I just a couple days ago, someone had died at 51 that was close to our family, and it's devastating. And I really just want people to be happy, find your joy, find your happiness. And we want to show people how we are doing that. Not every day is easy. And we talk about that on the podcast, but we are different in the aspect that people get to go along with our story and grow with us, and we can give them
Yeah.
tools to grow and be their best selves and live your life isn't all about just working, making supper,
Yeah.
and going to bed, watch TV for 3 hours, go to bed, and then start all over again.
Yeah.
There's more to life than that.
I like how you said
So
live your life. Yeah, because look, you've gotta grow and develop, and you're chasing your goals and dreams and path, but you got to live your life at the same time. I do think it's important to note because, like, I've been in the personal development space for 30 years now, might even be 35. I don't know. Definitely personally been in it longer than that at my age, but I've found over time that growth and progress come from this mix of coaching, personal stories, guests, successes. And that's all what you guys mix it up with between guests and personal stories and discussions and conversation. So I really do love that. And I don't say that just for the variety, I say it because all of those things are really needed for people to relate and make change. And so that's super important. So I know we don't have a ton of time, but Ryan, I want to talk about, you got a book coming out or out. Fill us in on that. What's the story with the book?
Yeah, God Only Knows When the Devil Comes for You, A Second Chance at Life really walks the walk of my divorce experience. I literally started writing it the day I received the final divorce notice from Hennepin County here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And 30 days later, we had the manuscript complete and Trilogy Christian Publishing from TBN. Again, it's put together and we released it 3 June. And it just walks through it if you're to look at the table of contents, and don't have it completely memorized, but I do know chapter 1 is your connection with God. And it takes you through a little bit of the biggest book of the world, the Bible. It certainly has a little bit of devotional. Wow, there we go, North Dakota
New word.
again.
Love it.
Yeah, devotional side of things with a little bit of scripture, but it goes into each of how my walk was through it. And the divorce process for me, like I was sober through it all. It was not that I was like still drinking, still drugging, still Unfortunately, ladies out there, man, like Corin kind of thing, I was not a good person. So it takes you through the power of pain, talks about your attitude of gratitude, similar to working with a program like AA. There's some tools of becoming fireproof. I look at all of us today, we have our war of our purpose or the war of your purpose and building yourself to break. Because, like you brought up earlier, George, like I've been broken so many different times, a lot through injury when I was in sports and so forth, and then in the military. And every time that I was broken, I'd have a moment of separation from maybe reality, and that's where I went to drugs and alcohol or something else to take the pain away. And today, now, it's all about the perspective of things. I call it lost love or love lost through that perspective and shift. Your power of self. When I got laid off about a year ago from Fortune 500 America, so creating like you're building your life map one day at a time, and that's through your vision. And Lisa normally has it up in her office. She doesn't today. We each have our own life maps with our vision on them, and it's amazing. I think we started it maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and you could just go
Yeah.
through each of them and just check. And then we like update it, right? Check, update it. And you can't probably see them.
Love it.
Some of
Yeah.
them on there. One at first, it was like become an author, published author, right? And then we changed it to number one best-selling published author. It was to speak on X stage. Did that. So now it's speak on stages with Ed Milet, like Tony Robbins, all these people
Yeah.
that Ben Newman, the people that are in the top 10 of the world of mindset, mental conditioning coaches, and so forth, visionaries. It talks about mindfulness and meditation, some of the stuff that really worked for me, and how yoga. I went from being a CrossFit, getting back into that airborne ranger, like super hua, like where CrossFit's the only thing you do, to doing yoga. I could never do yoga in a previous life. And today, I'm
I
like,
got him to do that. Healing
All
yoga.
right. Yeah. See the positive influence of female voice. That's right.
yeah, that's right. It talks about
Mhm.
prayer and your holiness. It talks about making a difference and loving your neighbor, like truly loving the people that you can despise. And we can get into that maybe later about my spiritual routine. And then finally, it's just like your burning desires, your final thoughts. And I always go back to Sylvester Stallone and Rocky Balboa in talking about perseverance. And remember Mickey, his coach, and basically it's like when you're laying on that canvas, a little voice is going to come here on the shoulder and it's going to say, "Get up, you son of a bitch," because Mickey loves you. And to me, obviously, I
Yeah.
get emotional because so many times that's been me drunk in the basement while my family's sleeping. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And it took losing everything, right? What you worked so hard for, you thought you were working so hard for. And you lose it all, but know that I'm going to get up because I'm that son of a bitch, that I know somebody loves me, and that somebody's Jesus Christ. And today, he's undefeated. He's completely undefeated. And I'm going to keep fighting.
I love it. I love it. And it's interesting because sometimes I wish our show had so much more time we could put into it. And I was going to try to get us to dive deep into strategies and tactics. But I'll tell you what, my personal opinion, and I want to have Lisa share a couple things with us on this, but I've heard the message many times that your mess is your message. And I think that a lot of times there's tactics and strategies and techniques and daily rituals, but at the end of the day, it really does just boil down to your passion for wanting to change and transform your life and be a better person. I think that book will be a great way for people to do that. I also want to put a lot of I'll connect in our show notes a lot of different things with both of you because I do think it's important, but I think that the message you have, the mission, the passion you have for it is what's most important. I can say to the audience that's listening, we've had conversations about daily rituals and tactics and strategies. Believe me, Ryan's a military guy. He has a plenty of strategies and tactics, but it is so important that the message was heard today. And Lisa, I want you to comment on something because I really think it's also important. And by the way, the life map and stuff, I love that. Such a great visual of vision board and living your life and planning your life. So that's super cool. I'm glad you mentioned that. But Lisa, what's going to be happening here? What's up next for Our Healer, Our Protector? You guys got some different types of ways people can engage with you. You're going to be doing different things, whether it's
Yeah.
retreats, you get coaching, a lot of different stuff. Tell us a little bit about what your business has available, but also what you guys see happening for what you're building here over the next little while.
Yeah, our plan is we're hoping we are not, I'm not going to say hope, we will have a retreat in October for
Nice.
couples. to strengthen their relationship. We want to have where you have blended families and how to help each other through blended families and all the different families involved. You might have 6 grandparents now, and everyone's opinion and how to strengthen your relationship with your children and yourself. We're going through it right now. We're learning as we do this podcast. People that love you the most will question you through divorce, through you changing your life. And that is okay because you have your own path. I have lisasander.com. I'm a life coach. I have tools and areas to help you age 35 to 55, mostly towards women when you're in that midlife. I call it finding your midlife happiness. I don't like to look things in a negative way.
Yeah.
When you go through trauma or you have pivot in your life that you need to change, I want to help you find your midlife happiness. As Ryan's book says, Second Chance at Life. Everyone deserves a second chance at life. Just because what Ryan's been through doesn't mean he doesn't get to have a second chance at life and be forgiven and have new people in his life love him. And when you surround yourself with different people too, it brings out your best in yourself. Sometimes the two people
Yeah.
together, you weren't at your best with each other, and it's okay to, I want my kids' father to be happy and find his best person to make him be his best self. For some reason, we couldn't do that together, and that's okay. And we
Yeah.
tried. So everyone deserves to be loved. Everyone deserves to be forgiven and not keep going backwards. Let's start moving forward and helping people move forward.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And it's interesting how much we align in our messaging as well, because I tell people, obviously, everybody wants to create a better life and be more successful, happy, fulfilled, healthy. But I do believe it's never too late to start living and
Never too
creating the
late.
life that you were meant to live, by the way. Not that you want to live, but
Mhm.
you were meant to live. So, Ryan, as we get going here, if someone is dealing with whether it's post divorce pain, trauma, struggles, emotional problems right now, whether it's work or personal or relationship or whatever, what do you say to somebody like that? What do they do? What would be your message to them when they're struggling right now that you could leave them with, whether it's a message for them or something that they can do? What would be your message to somebody dealing with that?
Yeah, I think first things first is you need to talk to somebody. And this is where I struggled, right? Because it was like before everything, like the switch came, it was at a minimum you can talk to your, for me, it's God, but you could say your imaginary friend or whomever, right? So it's, but if you have like a friend, you have a family member, a therapist, I have all of them. I have a psychiatrist, I have a therapist, I have them all, pastor, friends, family. And so talk to somebody and just lay it out there. What's the worst thing that happens is they say, I don't want to be in your life anymore now that I know I think when I raised my hand September 15th, 1999 to become in the military, and so help me God. It says at the very end, so help me God. So just
The truth.
yeah,
Everyone
you're
just
living
tell your
truth.
truth.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Lisa. Is I was such a liar in a previous life. I had a 33-year drinking career, and so it was one where in that amount I lied the entire time. I lied to myself. I lied to people I loved. I lied to the cops. I lied to anybody and everything. They couldn't see who Ryan really was because I was a scared little boy,
Mhm.
and I just never grew up. And at 45, I finally looked in the mirror and said, "I'm going to grow up." And so tell the truth. It'll set you free. It literally does set you free. It's going to hurt like hell because people are going to leave you. But knowing that the best thing is going to come from that. I know we've talked, George, you've seen your phoenix on your cap there and rising from the ashes. That truth will allow that phoenix to rise from the ashes and become like an eagle that soars high on eagle's wings, like Isaiah, 40, 31, whatever it is, or
Yeah.
probably that backwards. But that's what I'd say first. And then I'd say, get yourself coaches, get yourself people that if you want to be an 8-figure, 9-figure entrepreneur, and you got to have people that are doing that and better in your life. You have to have people in your life that, will pull you out of the depths of hell. And your old circles probably don't do that. If you're like the number one person in your circle, you're in the wrong circle. You need to be the person that's
Yeah.
like in the middle of the pack. Buffaloes charge through a storm because that's the fastest way to get through one. Be in the middle of that herd and keep going through the storm. Tail forward, as I always say. And I think
Great.
you'll find success a hell of a lot faster.
I love the message. You're right, because your past does not define you, but you do need to address it,
No.
and you do need to be able to deal with it. And when you can surround yourself with individuals like yourselves with your life map and people that will push you to grow and push you to realize that the more you focus on your future self, the less you'll focus on your past self. And dealing with trauma, that's what a lot of people are doing. They're just fixated on their past mistakes. And so I love the combination of what you two have.
Laughter, yeah.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I'm just gonna say laughter and happiness, you gotta find it. Don't keep on going
Yeah.
backwards. Find
So,
your people to bring your laughter.
yeah, and Lisa, the message
Sorry.
that you have, no, that's great. I think that so that message that you have is what's pretty consistent with the podcast. So I was going to ask, do you feel like maybe the best place for people to connect with you right now is your YouTube channel, maybe to get connected to the podcast and whatnot? Is that what's the YouTube channel, Lisa?
Our healer, our protector.
Awesome.
It's
How
really
else can they,
simple.
is there anything else that, any last thought, Lisa, you would leave with people who are listening if they're dealing with things?
Yeah, if you're in that time of life that you feel the urge and something's telling you, I need to do more, I need to change things up, this isn't working for me, connect with us, whether that be Ryan or me, wherever you feel comfortable with. Like I said, my age group is can be any age, but it probably directs towards 35 and 55-year-old women. But I will take anybody. Like if you're struggling in life and you need a push and you need a cheerleader and to help find your passion and dive deep to what you need, I will be able to help you. And
Yeah.
Ryan also, Ryan has the man side where he could be a little bit tougher and be your truth. He has to do that with me sometimes. And as a woman, I want that. I am done being masculine. I want to be feminine. And that's another thing I want to teach
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
Get into your feminism. Be a feminine. What am I trying to say? Be
Yeah.
feminine
Yeah. Yeah.
because this whole masculine stuff, it is not fun. I'm done with
No, I agree. I agree. And man, I tell you, I know we've been starting to unpack a lot, and a lot of people are like, "Man, would you guys go deeper?" Unfortunately, we never have enough time. But I really appreciate you both being here today. This has been a really good conversation, and I think it's just the opening of a door. And I think for a lot of people listening, it might be opening for a good connection as well. So thank you so much for both being here. And listen, if you're listening to this, and whether you're crushing it and you want to go to the next level, or you're constantly growing, or you're like most, you're constantly outside your comfort zone anyway, which is where you should be. I think what the best thing to be would do is I will put all of your information, both of you, in the show notes. So we'll make sure we have ways for people to connect with you.
you.
Check out the book with Ryan, get connected to the podcast, whether you're a man, a woman, you're dealing with things, or you just want to associate with good people. I think there's some really good connections. So I'll put that in the show notes. And just remember, hit us up. Let us know what you're working on. Let us know what we can do to help you,
Yeah.
or you want to celebrate some wins. Let us know. We'd love to celebrate those with you as well. But thank you both for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, George.
Thank you so much, George.
Okay,
Appreciate
everybody,
it.
have an amazing day. I'll talk with you soon.